What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. How's it hanging? Everybody good? Everybody good? I hope everybody's having a fantastic day. Decided to start the week with positivity. We did have to deal with Taijuan Walker this weekend, so I thought there's enough negativity in the general Delaware Valley. So let's go a little bit more positive today. So we're going to start off with just a little bit of positivity. I hope everybody's having a great day. I hope you're having a manic Monday. I hope you're having a motivational Monday. I hope that we're setting up for a terrific Tuesday, a wonderful Wednesday, a thoroughly entertaining Thursday, and a fantastic Friday here on a Monday. I hope everybody's having a blast out there. A big hello to everybody who's joining in the chat already. Connor calling me out for being late. I was running an errand really quick. I had the audacity to try to run an errand today in between editing and writing some stuff this morning. And I was going to ping Craig and say, hey, Craigles, hit the countdown, the 5-minute countdown. But as we've come to learn, when we do this Monday show, we do this on the Joy Media account because Joy Media puts out the extra money to put this beautiful, this massive 5-head right here in 1080p instead of 720p. Now, if Kinker ever ponies up the money for the Crossing Broad account to get the higher level and get to 1080, well, then by all means. Also, we can go to more locations here. We got more destinations across Crossing Broad. And you can find me on Twitter at JoyOnBroad, all that. So we don't have the 5-minute countdown here. If we did, the show would have started exactly at 12:05 as I wanted to have happen. But alas, here we are. Connor's right, though. We hold people accountable here, and you should hold me accountable, and I appreciate it. Josh White checks in. Happy Monday from Orlando, down there in the Sunshine State. Wonder how they're feeling down there in Florida. Of course, the Florida Panthers have now punched their ticket to the Stanley Cup Final. And last night, Western Conference Final, really the only game of significant note last night, unless you consider last night's Phillies-Cardinals game, which was a big deal, a sad loss. But we like I said, we're starting with positivity, so we're pushing that out of our minds. So last night, the Edmonton Oilers punched their ticket to the Stanley Cup Final. We get to see the best player in the world, Connor McDavid, take on a very loaded Florida Panthers team in what should be a very good Stanley Cup Final. And you look on the NBA side of things, and you've got those dastardly Boston Celtics taking on their former teammate, Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic, Kristaps Porzingis, a former teammate, and the Dallas Mavericks. But that doesn't start till later this week, so we're in this weird hellscape. Can we call it a hellscape? I think Craig today sent me a message and said something about Crossing Broadcast today will be airing from a hellscape. And that hellscape is a world where there's no basketball and there's no hockey. We really are in the doldrums of summer. Again, those series will start later this week, but for right now, it's baseball, baby. And imagine being me and imagine being my team writing sports betting content today based all around baseball, which Craig has been creating the images for all morning, working hard for that $600,000 salary. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. And like I said, I know it's not a great day necessarily to tune into a Philly sports show since there was only one game, and it did happen last night, and it did come on the heels of a loss in extra innings. And we can break it down, but like I said, we're going to take a little bit of positive. So the Phillies did a good thing overall against the Cardinals. They picked up a series win after having some rough games against the Giants and some rough performances against the Rockies. So they got back in their winning ways, picked up a series, their first series win in 3 series attempts. So here we are. Now, we do have to look at a little bit of the negative from last night, unfortunately. And the negative has a name, and his name is Taijuan Walker. And so I know that I have been the truther, the Turnbull truther this entire season. And I will continue to be one. I will continue to be the Turnbull truther. And I know that when Ranger Suarez got hurt and looked like a badass, by the way, taking that ball 106 miles per hour off the bat onto his arm, a nice little nonchalant throw to first to get the out, and then he comes out of a game. People are paranoid. They're panicked. Is Ranger Suarez going to miss significant time? Sounds like he could be back in the rotation for this upcoming weekend in London. So there is a chance that he is not nearly as injured. It was just a contusion. There's no fracture. There's no break. There's no significant time expected to be missed by Ranger Suarez. People thought, hey, that's the opening potentially for Spencer Turnbull to make his way into the rotation. But I just want to throw out there that, since it looks like Suarez is fine, can somebody please fire Taijuan Walker into the sun? Please. I've gotten the feedback all weekend when I threw that out there.
Well, Russ, you have to understand that Taijuan Walker, his main purpose and why the Phillies continue to throw him out there here in these May games and now June is because his main objective is to eat some innings for the Phillies. And they're winning a lot of games elsewhere, so you don't necessarily have to get better pitching out of that number 5 starter or whatever is exactly Taijuan Walker is supposed to be. But I think in our hearts and in our minds, we know he's a number 5 starter. Just got to eat some innings. Just got to eat them up. Turnbull can't do that. He's on like an innings limit, and it's going to be a problem. You can't have that. Can't have that. You gonna ride Taijuan Walker into the fall, and then right before the postseason, you're gonna put Turnbull back into the rotation. It's all gonna be hunky dory. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. Taijuan Walker, the only reason he is in the starting rotation right now is certainly not because of merit. It's not because of what he did last year. It's not even what he's done so far this year, because in fairness, what he's done this year has been horrendous. This isn't even like a subjective opinion. He has been dreadful for the Phillies this year. And at some point, as I've done multiple times, you can call me out for being a hypocrite when I am a hypocrite, but in this case, I am certainly not. The only reason he's in the rotation right now isn't just to be some innings eater. It's because he's got a big contract, and they don't want to have to admit defeat on the deal. I think they were hoping that, hey, after 2-3 starts, maybe he gets into a rhythm. Maybe he pitches, decently, a low 4s ERA. But that ain't happening, homie. That ain't happening at all. And in a season where you've seen Turnbull go out and start and look fantastic, to a point where people said, hey, don't mess this up. Don't put Taijuan Walker back into the rotation. Turnbull's doing very well. And even Christopher Sanchez, who's had a fantastic start to the season. And we all know what Ranger Suarez has done. We all know what Aaron Nola has done, what Zach Wheeler has done this year. Taijuan Walker is the weak link in this rotation. And while, yes, you could make the case that game in and game out, this team has the chance to win each and every game because they are just that much better than the opposition, it is still fair to request, to demand more of that 5th starter. Or if you want to call him the number 4, whatever the hell you want to call Taijuan Walker. I call him the number 7 starter, but here we are, okay? You have to be able to have the ability as a fan to say, hey, this isn't good enough. When the rest of the rotation is putting up legitimate numbers, and I checked out Big Bet Bob's Red October newsletter, which I would, recommend you subscribe to if you're a Phillies fan. He kind of pulled up what ESPN is doing. They have a Cy Young predictor formula. And right now, the top 3 candidates for the NL Cy Young are Ranger Suarez, Aaron Nola, and Zach Wheeler. They put it together. It's kind of complicated. Innings pitched, earned runs, strikeout saves, wins, losses. Ranger Suarez leads the way with 98.7 points. Aaron Nola, 73.9 points. And Zach Wheeler at 71 points. They've been fantastic. Christopher Sanchez has been really, really good. Like, I'd be remiss if I didn't at least highlight the fact that, like, when you go back to the 4 aces plus average Joe Blanton, right, that rotation, I don't think Roy Oswalt ever really blew anybody's doors off the way that, like, he had when he was an ace with the Astros. But, like, you'd get back to it and you'd say, hey, you know what? If Joe Blanton goes out and has, like, a decent enough game, eats some innings for you, you're fine. That was because you expected there are 4 aces and average Joe. Here, the expectation was, okay, Zach Wheeler is going to be your stone-cold ace. Aaron Nola is going to have ace stuff, but is kind of in and out all the time mentally with whether or not he actually can be an ace or not. And then you thought, like, hey, what could Ranger Suarez be? And then it was like, all right, Christopher Sanchez, like, who knows? Like, as long as he can put up some decent innings, he can put up, like, moderately fine numbers, you'll be able to be someone in contention in the NL East. And everybody favored the Braves going in. All the sports books did. All the pundits did. Like, this is how it went. As the Braves have fallen off, because of significant injuries, and they're going to probably continue to fall off, even though I still think they have a good all-around team, the expectation here has changed. And the performance of 4 of your starters, plus Turnbull, to this point have been so good that it's okay to say, hey, we are changing expectations. We're going from saying, be a competitive team in the NL East and likely compete for one of the wild card spots to, hey, with the Braves effectively out of it, right? Or far back enough that, like, you really, not that you have to fall on your face, but, like, you're far enough ahead of the Braves right now where you should feel pretty okay about experimenting with a couple of things from time to time. The expectations have changed where it's not like, hey, you're gunning for the Braves. Now it's, hey, you're gunning to be on top of the National League and to hold off everyone else. You're now competing potentially for home field advantage throughout the postseason. And I know it's still like early in the season because baseball has way too many games in a season, but it's still fair to say, hey, now you're looking at how do we stack up against the best in the National League, not the NL East. And to this point, the Phillies have shown that they can be just as good, if not better, than any team in the National League. And you could say, hey, the Brewers are having a nice season because they are. Or you could say, hey, the Dodgers are having a really good season and they're right on your heels for the best record in the National League. And that's fine. You have to remember, once again, the Dodgers came into this season with the expectation of being a World Series contender, with being a team that not only could make the World Series, but it would be a failure for them to not make the World Series. A team that went out and got Shohei Ohtani. A team that went out and outbid you, in theory, or at least put up a competitive enough offer for Yamamoto. That, like, they put the pedal to the metal. They put together what is considered by many to be like an all-star team of sorts. Your expectations should have changed and probably have changed. And if you're the Phillies, now it comes down to how do we put ourselves in position not to be in contention to win every fifth game or to win 4 out of 5 games. How do we put a team in contention to potentially have a chance every game? And Taijuan Walker is not that guy. Now, if you want to try to make a case, and I would love for the people who are watching on YouTube and on Facebook and on X right now, if there is a Taijuan truther out there, by all means, wander into the comments section and let me know why I'm wrong. But Taijuan Walker is not that guy. And in fairness, I don't think he's ever shown that he can be that guy. I just don't. And Taijuan is bad. Opponents right now are hitting .302 against him this season. He's got a 1.59 whip. He's horrific. And don't expect me to be somebody who's going to like try to make all kinds of like exit velocity arguments. That's not me. That's not my jam. Okay? But right now his expected ERA for the year is over 6. That's bad. I think we can all agree that's bad. An expected ERA of over 6 puts him in the bottom 4% of all pitchers in baseball. He's that bad. So for as great as Ranger Suarez has been, what a revelation he's been, what a Cy Young contender he's been, for as great as Zach Wheeler has been for much of the season, again, potentially in Cy Young conversation, for as great as Aaron Nola has been by the numbers, you might say Cy Young contention, but you'd say like very, very good. Some people might say Cy Young contention. For as good as Christopher Sanchez has been, given the low expectations, you cannot continue to trot Taijuan Walker out there because he's either going to, quote unquote, eat innings, which he doesn't really do a great job of, or because he's got this big bloated contract and you don't want to have to either DFA him, send him down, or have him rot in the bullpen to be a long relief guy. Like, I don't know what we're doing here. But again, by all means, let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. I don't think I am, but maybe you think I am. I want to go back over to Joey B. Joey B saying, good morning over on YouTube. Hello, Joey. Joe Papel, another Joe, checks in. We love Joe Papel. Hi, Russ, exactly. Stay ahead of the Dodgers and Yankees for home field throughout. And that's the other thing, too. You know, I make all these cases from the vantage point, through the lens of the National League and how it matters within your own league. But, like, let's talk about Major League Baseball as a whole. The Yankees are virtually at the same point record-wise. They have an additional win. They're 42-19. The Phillies are 41-19 entering today's games. And even the Guardians. Guardians are having a really good year, 39-20. I am honestly shocked looking at that to see just how good they've been. But you're in a competition here for the best record in baseball, for the best record in the National League. You have to execute at a high level, and Taijuan Walker is not the guy to help you get there. So hopefully at some point, someone will figure it out. And at some point, hopefully, they will abide by that long-held adage, a very good business adage, that sunken costs shouldn't factor into future expenditures. Just because you sunk a lot of money into this guy doesn't mean you have to ride or die with him for the rest of the season. You don't. There's nothing to hold you to it. And by the way, if you really are worried, like if the narrative out there that the Phillies might be worried about Turnbull's innings for the season, if they're really concerned about how many innings he really has in his arm, and there is this thought that maybe late in the season they could look to kind of bring him back into the rotation and have a steady arm down the stretch, I don't love that. But if that's the thought they're going to go with, then the only other logical place to go after that is, all right, when the trade deadline comes up, find another quality rotation arm to replace Taijuan Walker, at least in the interim.
I said going into the season that I still, I said going into the season, I thought a month into the season, team still needs another top-end starter. Maybe it won't be an ace, but maybe like a really solid number 2. And I will, I guess, come back to this point that while I think the Phillies rotation has been incredible, which it has, except for Taijuan Walker, eventually players regress to the mean. And so eventually some of the lights out starts that you've seen from a Ranger Suarez or from a Christopher Sanchez or really, really good consistent performance that you've seen from Wheeler or Nola, you're not going to get that every time out. If you do, you're talking about an all-time record-setting season, and right now they're on pace for that in franchise history. However, you also have to be open to the idea that, like, hey, eventually guys do kind of come back to their norms. And even if they have an elevated season, if they have a better season, the best season of all time for them, the likelihood of that happening for 4 starting pitchers in the same rotation at this point, probably not exactly high. So you can't rest on your laurels, and you have to constantly look for how do we get better. And right now, the most glaring position on this team, the most glaring hole, is Taijuan Walker's spot in the rotation. And we'll see what happens, and we'll see if anything changes. But listen, good news, and we said this a little bit ago, really good news on Ranger Suarez that it looks like he could be ready for the weekend. That obviously would have been a massive hit to this rotation. So if nothing else, you have a little bit of positivity, a little bit of Phillies positivity to kind of push you through last night, being a loss in extra innings. Again, a nice series win against the Cardinals. And now you look to where the Phillies are going over the next few days, and they're right back at it. They're right back at it again tonight as they welcome Milwaukee to town. And as I mentioned a little bit ago, Milwaukee's having a really solid season. This is effectively going to pit 2 of the best teams in the National League, if not all of baseball, head-to-head. It's a series that I think if you are somebody who has gone into the season or has gone through this part of the season and said the Phillies' strength of schedule doesn't stack up compared to some of the better teams in baseball, they've beaten a lot of bottom feeder teams or a lot of teams that don't look like they're playoff bound, this series is your chance to really nut up. And the Phillies have Zach Wheeler on the mound tonight. 6-3 on the season, 2.32 ERA, 85 strikeouts on the year. Big time stuff. Effectively, as I've said for a long time, your ace. I know Ranger Suarez has had a great season. I still say Zach Wheeler's your ace, and if you have to give the ball to one guy in the postseason, it's probably Zach Wheeler. Christopher Sanchez slated to start on Tuesday night against the Brewers. 3-3, 2.83 ERA, 56 strikeouts. Again, he's had what I think most would consider a relatively surprising season, a very effective one. And then Aaron Nola, a guy who I often am on, right? I'm always holding him accountable to task, all that. He's had a really good season. If he has a strong start on Wednesday, it's possible that he also takes his ERA for the season under 3. 7-2 on the season, 71 strikeouts. So if you're looking to go into a series with a legitimate chance of putting your best foot forward and having a guy on the mound who can steal a game for you or shut down the opposition, unless you were really riding the, hey, let's get Ranger Suarez back in there maybe a little bit too early, that's a hell of a three-headed monster to throw at the Brewers. So there's a little bit of positivity. Josh White asks if there's an update to Marsh. I have not seen one yet. If anybody has, by all means, let me know in the comments below. I have not seen any kind of update on Marsh yet. All right. I think that's probably an okay place to leave the fight in Phils for now. And now I don't know if I want to say I have to eat crow. Not a very big crow-eating guy, but I will when it's warranted. And I think at this point, if you know me and you know how I approach Philly sports, you know that I'm often very critical of Howie Roseman. And in fairness, there's reason to be. The drafts haven't exactly been great. He still doesn't understand what a linebacker is or that they're actually needed in this game. And he's neglected the secondary in the past. And for a long time, often neglected the wide receiver position on this team. And for all the things that you might want to say about Carson Wentz, I would also kind of push back that at least during part of his tenure, and certainly the beginning of Jalen Hurts' tenure, I don't think he had the requisite weapons necessarily to be the most successful. I know that he had Alshon Jeffrey, and you had Alshon Jeffrey who played a pivotal role in the Super Bowl win. I totally get that. But Howie eventually kind of got his head on straight. A.J. Brown gets acquired. You draft Devontae Smith. There were questions about was Devontae Smith the right pick.
Then earlier this offseason, a lot of questions surrounding the future of A.J. Brown and surrounding the future of Devontae Smith. Would either of them re-sign here? Would they both re-sign here? When A.J. Brown, remember, he went on WIP, talked to Ike Reese and Jack Fritz, and was kind of like, hey, I really love it here. I love the fans. I don't know where this stuff is coming from about me not wanting to be here, but I do want to be here. I love this city. I love the fans, yada, yada. There was still plenty of questions about, like, hey, does he actually mean it? Like, we went from, hey, does he want to be here, to, well, he said he wants to be here, but does he really want to be here? And then he re-signed. And at the time, some people were a little bit up in arms about the A.J. Brown contract extension. And I think a lot of people knew that, hey, there are other really big deals coming down the pike, like really big ones, because CeeDee Lamb was potentially going to be a holdout. Justin Jefferson was potentially going to be a holdout. So you go back a little bit earlier this offseason. Howie Roseman in April, re-signed A.J. Brown, a 3-year contract, $96 million guaranteed. Some people were a little bit up in arms about the cost, right, about $96 million, but it was a short-term deal. You don't want to get yourself locked in. I know that in football, you can cut a guy at any point. Yes, you have to eat the guaranteed money, but the rest of it is just effectively gone. That felt like a pretty good deal at the time. A couple weeks before that, he signed Devontae Smith, 3 years, $75 million. Another very good deal. I think we all probably agree that Devontae Smith on many teams would be the number one wideout. And across from A.J. Brown is a fantastic yin to the yang. So you looked at it and you said, hey, at that time, 2 3-year contracts, $75 million for Devontae, $96 for A.J. Brown. How was it going to hold up? A month after A.J. Brown signed, Jalen Waddle got $85 million from Miami. And there were some people who were questioning, was that the right move? But then a big thing happened today, as of recording, like a couple hours ago. Justin Jefferson inked a deal, an extension, for whatever reason, to continue playing in Minnesota. Why? No one seems to know. 4-year contract, $140 million. Bananagrams. Bananas. Now, you can make the case that Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in football, and I think you probably have a very good case to make. Some people like Tyreek Hill a little bit more. They think he's a little bit more versatile, a little bit more adaptable. But Justin Jefferson is a fantastic receiver, and there is very legitimately a case to make that he is the best receiver in football. Is he $140 million over 4 years kind of guy? Well, I mean, if you compare it to what St. Brown got from Detroit, $120 million over 4 years, I would say that he probably is worth an extra $20 million relative to that. Do I think that, here we go. Craig was bringing it up. $110 million of that $140 million guaranteed. Highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. That's insane. And if you think about it, desperate teams do desperate things. Minnesota, young quarterback. They parted ways with Kirk Cousins in the offseason. Certainly felt like, all right, you have one of two ways you can go with Minnesota if you're Minnesota. One, you extend this man for beaucoup bucks and try to give your young QB the opportunity to do something of value and start with arguably the best weapon in all of football. Or you say, we are punting. We are going to go from being a team that can contend for the NFC North to a team that says we are starting over. And then you, I guess, try to get draft capital for Justin Jefferson. And you're never, ever, 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 ever going to get the kind of value back that you're sending out in Justin Jefferson. So it's a huge contract. But all things considered, if you're the Philadelphia Eagles today, you have to feel a lot better about the deals that you inked your own guys to. That you inked A.J. Brown to earlier and Devontae Smith to earlier. One fewer year on each contract, fine. They end up being very good deals. What's going to be very, very interesting here is what the hell are the Cowboys going to do with CeeDee Lamb? The draft is over. There's no hope of trying to send him away for capital. I don't think they were going to anyway, right? But CeeDee Lamb is going to get a lot of money. And I get that there's no real cap in the NFL. And I totally get how this whole thing works. But CeeDee Lamb is not worth $140 million. I could make the case that maybe he's worth the same $120 that Amon-Ra St. Brown got from Detroit. Maybe. There's a chance. But if you're the Cowboys and you were hoping that they were going to hold off, if you were hoping that
if you're a Cowboys fan, which none of you are watching this, hopefully, and if you are, please figure that shit out. If you were a Cowboys fan and you were hoping that, hey, we're going to hold off and see how the market develops, and you saw those Devontae Smith numbers and A.J. Brown numbers come in, and you said, hey, you know what? Maybe we can get CeeDee Lamb locked in for something around that. You then saw this deal this morning, and if you're an Eagles fan, you should feel great because that's going to be even more cap eaten up. It's going to be even more capital eaten up against the Cowboys because CeeDee Lamb is going to hold out. I would not be surprised if you see CeeDee Lamb, if the rumors start coming out starting now until whenever his holdout is over, that he's going to want 150 plus. Do I think CeeDee Lamb is a better wide receiver than Justin Jefferson? I certainly do not. I think he's a very good wide receiver. I don't think he's as good as Justin Jefferson. But if he's going to push for 150 over 4 years, woohoo! Good luck, Dallas. Good luck, guys. I don't see it. Craig, let's bring up that graphic. Thank you so much. This is why you make so much money. That is why you are the best in the biz. You put Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb head-to-head. 4 seasons each. They've both made 3 All-Pros. They've both made 3 Pro Bowls. The catches are virtually identical. CeeDee Lamb, 3 additional catches. About 700. Let's do the quick math here, Craig. 754 extra yards by Justin Jefferson. That's great mental math. That's how you can tell I was a language teacher, right? It's good mental math. CeeDee Lamb has the advantage in total touchdowns, 35-31. I think most of us could make the case pretty easily that CeeDee Lamb has played on better teams in Dallas with higher expectations consistently. And I would also maybe get a little bit of pushback on this, but I'd also say that for the most part, Dak Prescott is a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins. And so I think he's been playing with a better quarterback. So I don't necessarily think if you remove CeeDee Lamb from that situation and send him to another team that's in desperate need of wide receiver help, that it's going to amount to much. I could be wrong. I don't think I am. Again, let me know in the comments if you think I am. But that's brutal. That's going to be brutal for Dallas, and I love it. All right, last thing today. A final bit of positivity. We talked about this last week. Last week we didn't do a show. There was no show last week. I didn't do a show last week. No Russ on Monday. That was Memorial Day. No. So 2 weeks ago, I think we were talking about the potential of who are the Sixers going to go after and who makes the most sense. And I was on with Kinker. Maybe it was last week. Craig, was it last Thursday? Was I on? I was on with Kinker. Yes, I was. And then he sent the episode. We did a late start on Thursday, and then he had the interview with the guy who I said looks like Brazilian Jack Black, whose name totally escapes me, but Kevin was very excited about this guy and legit looked like Brazilian Jack Black. But anyway, a couple weeks ago, I came on the show, and I said, there's only one option if you're the Philadelphia 76ers. Like, if you're going to go balls to the wall for one overpriced, past his prime star, who makes the most sense? Jimmy Butler, Paul George, or LeBron James? And I said last Thursday, because Kinker had like the 5 different things, and he's written about it on the site a few times, about like the 5 different options that the Philadelphia 76ers have. It's like you can go Paul George, you could go the route of LeBron James, you could decide to sign none of these guys and just go with role players. You could choose to trade Joel Embiid. I think that's his option number 5 is trade Joel Embiid and try to get another elite guard to pair with Tyrese Maxey, looking at what Dallas has been successful with Kyrie and Luka Doncic together. And I said, I think that for once, even though I've been against it at times in the past, like I think that the only real clear option here is that LeBron James to the Philadelphia 76ers makes sense on a lot of levels for both the player and the team. And it's maybe the least scary time to invest in LeBron James. I get that nobody wants to burn a first-round pick on Bronny James. And maybe you won't have to. Like, maybe ultimately LeBron says, I'm going to go where I'm going to go because I want to win a title, and I think Philadelphia has the best chance of doing it. Or maybe Bronny says, hey, Dad, I know you want to play together, but I want to get myself in position to go to the best possible team for me and to not be in your shadow and to just kind of exist on my own. We don't know. Unless you know the James family, you have no idea either. I will simply point out the following. Jimmy Butler, as I said a few weeks ago, you didn't want to extend at the time when he was in probably his best prime-ish years available because you were afraid of what the last couple of years of that contract were going to look like. If reports are to be believed, Jimmy Butler is going to want an extension. So you will have effectively missed out on the best potential years of a contract you could have signed a few years ago to get the tail end of that contract, which you were afraid of having in the first place. That's what you would get to start. And then you'd have to extend him. Oh, and by the way, you'd have to probably send draft capital and more just to get him here from Miami. That's no bueno. If they go and do it, fine, I guess. And I like Jimmy Butler and what he brings, and that he and Joel Embiid kind of seem to have good chemistry together, and that maybe Jimmy lights a fire. And I don't think Jimmy would be a bad guy to have in the locker room with Tyrese Maxey with that killer, like working on killer instinct. I think that there could be some benefits, but I think that overall, it's a lot of draft capital, it's a lot of money, it's a lot of years, it's a lot of missed games, ultimately, if you get Jimmy Butler. And Paul George, I think, is going to be a lot of the same. I think that Paul George 3 years ago would have been great, would have been a fantastic fit with what this version of Tyrese Maxey is and this version of Joel Embiid is, would have been a perfect match. However, same issues. Money. You're going to have years on a contract that you're probably not going to feel great about. Paul George has also had a propensity for getting hurt and missing time. And there are also questions about if he can perform in the postseason. And so far, the evidence would indicate that he is not a clutch performer and that you'd essentially be getting a lot of what kind of has followed James Harden around the league, that the guy doesn't perform in the biggest moments. So that is its own version of a risk. LeBron is like this, for whatever negative thoughts you might have about LeBron. There have been plenty of accusations of him being a coach killer, of him being a front office killer, of him dictating terms, of him backdoor dealing for free agents, of him trying to backdoor GM a team. This is the perfect opportunity. This is the perfect time to do it. Because LeBron's not going to sign a 6-year contract or a 5-year contract, probably not a 4, maybe not even a 3. He might sign a 1-1. And if all that costs you is a first-round pick to draft his son, and you bring in LeBron, who is still a very good player at this stage in his career, who you would have the ability to potentially just say, like, look, we're going to load manage LeBron James this year. We want to have him for the postseason. He's not going to want to do that, but maybe it is a conversation that he has with the team and says, you know what? My days of being able to be a potential every game player are past. And for me to be the optimal player to go chasing that championship in the postseason, I'm going to have to miss some games. Fine. Short-term deal. The money doesn't matter because you don't have a lot of commitments tied up this year. And hell, the backdoor GMing that he allegedly has tried to do in multiple stops now between his couple of runs with Cleveland, with Miami, with the Lakers, that actually could work to your advantage because Daryl Morey hasn't shown that he can put together a cohesive roster or put together a team that actually works well around Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, a set of role players that can execute well and in a meaningful way in the postseason. He hasn't done it yet. So why not let LeBron do it? And by the way, you still have a high-powered, well-thought-of in league circles executive in Daryl Morey. It's not having LeBron running roughshod on Elton Brand as the GM. It's a perfect situation. Let LeBron go and pull on some strings behind the scenes, get a decent enough team of role players around, and know that going into next postseason, yes, Joel Embiid's health will be a question mark, but you'll have another year of Tyrese Maxey hopefully taking another big step. LeBron fits in. He slides in perfectly with those two. And maybe, just maybe, it will be a match made in heaven. But to me, that's the only option right now. Now, I did see what Josh said here. None of the above. Give me TJ McConnell back. Absolutely not. And I like TJ McConnell. And I love what TJ McConnell brought during the process Sixers years. And I think that people in Indy love what TJ McConnell brings to the table. You know what I don't need? I don't need more TJ McConnell here. I don't need TJ McConnell in a backcourt with Tyrese Maxey. And it's not because he wouldn't work, and it's not because they wouldn't work well together. It's just I don't think that's the kind of move that raises your ceiling enough for you to be a legitimate NBA Finals contender and to be a team that ultimately is like one of 3 that realistically can contend for the Larry O'Brien trophy. I don't see it. And I could be wrong, I'm not, but I could be wrong. So again, you can let me know in the comments if or how or why I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. I'm not saying you have to go star hunting. I'm not saying that you have to go out and break tradition and go against what Daryl Morey has traditionally done as an executive. But I'm saying that if there is a potential to get a LeBron here, to have him kind of pull the strings behind the scenes and get a bunch of guys who are also title chasing, ring chasing, and all it really costs you is money for his deal and a first-round pick for Bronny James, fine, so be it. It's the easiest path. It's actually a no-brainer idea. But let me know in the comments below if you agree, if you disagree, if you listen back to this after the fact on Apple Podcasts or Pandora or Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, wherever you get your podcasts. You can let me know there. I will tell you, just really quickly before we head out here, because I know sometimes I have this tendency for saying like, hey, we're on our way out, and then I end up talking for like another 8 minutes. Today is not that day. I can see Craig is already excited about the possibility of the show going on longer than I've already said. He's got 2 thumbs up. I will tell you that if for whatever reason, if you enjoy this show, if you enjoy this Monday show, me just kind of ranting into the void and going back and forth with you fine folks, I have good news for you. I can't fully commit yet. I can't fully say anything yet, but I'm working on something. And the thing that I'm working on kind of already exists in its own way. And what I would recommend you to do is to go over, and right now it lives on YouTube, and there's a channel over there where a lot of the stuff that I do on Snow The Goalie, and It's Just Wrestling, and even this show, it exists over on the Joy Media account. You go over to YouTube, and I'm going to pop it up here on the screen. This Joy Media. There's a Joy Media channel that has a guy who looks like he might be Sri Lankan, and he's got like 138,000 followers on YouTube. I am not that guy. That's not me. But you go look for this Joy Media account, and you'll see the Snow The Goalie logo and the It's Just Wrestling logo, and you'll see all kinds of different stuff. But I'm working on something over there, and when that thing is ready, if you subscribe to that channel and ring the bell to get notified when things go live, you will be one of the first people to know about the thing I'm working on. But I can promise you that if for whatever reason you enjoy this show and you actively go out of your way to listen to this every Monday, watch it live, watch it on YouTube or X or Facebook or listen in the podcast feed, by all means, please head over there and go check it out. So Craig actually pulled up the other Joy Media. It is not this one. I don't actually know what this guy's channel is. He has so many followers. Is it 229,000 followers? Like, I don't know. Subscribers, whatever. Like, I can't read it. He's got a video with over 2 million views. I would love that. I'd love to get 2 million views. Ain't happening. The only time I've ever had anything that had over 2 million views, it was the Jalen Hurts, Gene Simmons tweet. I don't know what the rest of this is. I don't know. Craig, you should take it down, though, before we get flagged by YouTube for showing someone else's account. But, yeah, go find the Joy Media that has my, 5 head on it all the time, So, anyway, a big thank you to everybody who tuned in live today. Big thank you to everybody who tunes in the podcast feed. This show, Crossing Broadcast, will be back on Thursday. Kevin Kincaid running from the lead chair, running the show. I don't know if he has a guest lined up. I think he does. He might. Craig doesn't seem to have an indication either way on if there is a guest this week. He's kind of going shrug, so you'll have to tune back in to find out. But for Craig, who's on the other side of the glass, making $800,000 after such a strong performance today, I'm Russ. Fire Taijuan Walker into the sun. We will talk to all of you later this week here on Crossing Broadcast. Talk soon.